They moved fast. Friday, mysterious fall down the stairs. Saturday, confused emergency room visit. Sunday, psychiatric evaluation. Monday, committed for dementia. By Tuesday, Michael was in my office. CEO nameplate already on order. He'd spent months planning this, bribing doctors, fabricating incidents, building a case that his 68-year-old father had lost his mind. The execution was flawless, except for one tiny detail. The competency clause I'd hidden in Subsection J of Article 19, triggered by exactly this scenario. Sometimes paranoia pays off. If you've ever wondered how far family will go for money, subscribe to hear this story. Let me tell you how my son's perfect plan to steal my company became his perfect nightmare. My name is William Harrison, founder and CEO of Harrison Logistics, one of the largest private shipping companies in Texas. I started with one truck in 1978, sleeping in rest stops, eating cold beans from cans, driving 18-hour shifts to make deliveries on time. Today, we have a fleet of 2,000 trucks, 15 distribution centers, and annual revenue of $500 million. I built this company with my bare hands and one principle: trust is earned, not inherited. My father taught me that after my uncle stole his hardware store while he was recovering from a heart attack. Family will screw you faster than strangers, he'd said, because they think blood gives them rights. I married young, Margaret, my high school sweetheart. We had 2 kids, Michael in 1980 and Jennifer in 1983. Margaret understood the business, understood the sacrifices. She'd pack my lunches for long hauls, keep the books while I drove, raise our kids while I built our future. She died in 2015, cancer. Those last months, she warned me about Michael. He's not like you, she'd said, tubes running from her arms. He wants the rewards without the work. Watch him, Will. Promise me. I promised, though I thought it was the morphine talking. Mothers know their children. I should have listened. Harder. Chapter 2. The First Betrayal. Michael joined the company in 2005. Fresh from his MBA, I started him in dispatch, wanted him to learn from the ground up. He lasted 3 months before complaining. Dad, I have an MBA from Wharton. I shouldn't be coordinating truck routes. I started by driving trucks, I reminded him. You're already ahead. By 2010, he'd worked his way to CFO. Smart kid, I'll give him that. Understood numbers, had vision. What he lacked was patience and ethics. I discovered that in 2019 when our accountant, old Tom Bailey, called me at home. Will, you might want to look at the southeastern region's fuel costs. Something's not adding up. I investigated quietly. Michael had set up a shell company, Lone Star Fuel Services. We were buying diesel from them at 20% markup, money flowing right into his pocket. $3.2 million over 2 years. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. It's business optimization, he said. I deserve more than a salary. I'm your son. You're also a thief, I said. You're fired. Michael's termination lasted 6 months. Jennifer intervened, my sweet daughter who managed our Phoenix operation. Dad, he made a mistake. He's learned. Mom wouldn't want us divided. She was right about Margaret. She'd have wanted forgiveness. But she'd also have wanted protection. I hired lawyers, restructured the company, added subtle clauses to our bylaws, hidden in subsections where no one looks. One particular clause, Article 19, Subsection J, dealt with competency challenges. If any family member attempted to have me declared mentally unfit through fraudulent means, all their shares would transfer to a trust controlled by independent trustees, with proceeds going to charity. Paranoid much? My lawyer had asked. Cautious, I'd replied, thinking of my uncle and father, of Michael and the fuel scheme. Just cautious, Michael returned, contrite and humbled. Or so it seemed. I made him VP of operations, kept him away from finances. For 3 years, he played the perfect son. Attended every meeting, supported every decision, never questioned my judgment. I started to relax, to trust. Another mistake. The sign started in January 2023. Small things. Michael suggesting I was repeating myself in meetings. Mentions of my age. Dad, you've told that story before. Maybe you should write things down. Are you feeling okay? You seem tired. Gaslighting 101, though I didn't recognize it immediately. Then came the incidents. I'd find myself confused about appointments that weren't on my calendar. Documents would go missing from my desk. Passwords changed without my knowledge. Once, I arrived at a client dinner to find it had been mysteriously canceled. Michael was always there to smooth things over, the concerned son covering for his aging father. February brought escalation. I'd get calls about conversations I didn't remember having. Emails sent from my account that I didn't write. Security footage would show me in the office at times I was home. It took me weeks to realize what was happening. Michael had hired a look-alike, an actor who could pass for me at a distance. The security videos were carefully staged, always grainy, always from behind. The masterstroke was Dr. Patricia Coleman, a psychiatrist who started appearing at social events. Charming woman, early 40s, happened to golf at Michael's club. She'd engage me in conversation, asking subtle diagnostic questions disguised as small talk. I played along, curious where this was heading. March 10th, 2023, a Friday. I was working late, reviewing contracts for a major acquisition. The building was empty except for security. I headed for the stairs, elevators under maintenance, supposedly. Halfway down, I felt hands on my back. A push, not hard, but enough. I tumbled, managed to grab the railing, avoided serious injury. But my knee was twisted, head bumped. Security found me at the bottom. Jerry, then with us 15 years, helped me up. "Mr. Harrison, what happened?" "Lost my footing," I said, though I knew better. The security camera on that stairwell had mysteriously malfunctioned. The ambulance arrived fast, too fast. The EMTs were insistent about the hospital, about head injuries at my age. At the EA, Dr. Coleman appeared. What a coincidence. I volunteer here weekends. She ran tests, lots of tests. Cognitive evaluations that seemed more extensive than a bump warranted. "Mr. Harrison," she said gravely, "I'm concerned. Your responses show confusion, possible dementia onset. Have you been experiencing memory issues?" "No," I said firmly. "Then why did your son say you've been forgetting things? Having personality changes?" That's when I knew the endgame. The weekend was a blur of orchestrated chaos. Saturday, Michael brought me home, insisted on staying. Kept offering me tea that tasted odd. I pretended to drink, poured it in the plant. Whatever sedative he'd used, I needed to be foggy but not unconscious. By evening, I was playing the part, confused, agitated. When his girlfriend Sandra arrived dressed as a nurse, I gave them a show. "Who are you? Get out of my house." I threw a vase, carefully aimed at the wall. "Dad, that's Sandra. You know her." Michael's performance was Oscar-worthy. The concerned son, the aggressive father. Sunday brought another visit. This time, I was violent and disoriented. Dr. Coleman was there again, with another psychiatrist, Dr. James Mitchell, Michael's golf buddy. Their evaluation was swift and decisive. Acute dementia with aggressive tendencies. Immediate inpatient treatment recommended. By Monday morning, I was in Riverside Psychiatric Hospital, committed for a minimum 72-hour hold with potential long-term placement. Michael had power of attorney, forged, but good enough for the moment. He was already at Harrison Logistics, telling everyone about Dad's sudden decline. Riverside wasn't bad, as involuntary commitments go. Clean, professional, full of actual patients who needed help. I played my part during the day, confused, forgetful, occasionally agitated. But at night, I was myself, making friends with the night staff, particularly Nurse Rodriguez, a sharp woman who'd seen every scam in the book. "You're not demented," she said on my second night, bringing me coffee. 30 years in psych, I know the real thing. "No," I admitted, "but I need to be here for a few more days." "Legal reasons." She raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Angels come in scrubs sometimes." Michael visited daily, bringing witnesses. Company executives, family friends, all to see poor William Harrison in his decline. I gave them shows worth watching. Tuesday, I didn't recognize Jennifer, who was in on nothing. My poor daughter crying real tears. Wednesday, I accused Michael of stealing from me, ironically accurate. Thursday, I had a moment of clarity, begged him to take care of the company. "Don't worry, Dad," he said, squeezing my hand. "I've got everything under control." The boards already approved my emergency appointment as CEO. Perfect. Exactly what I needed, documentation of his takeover while I was committed. While I performed madness, my lawyer Thomas Crawford was busy. The competency clause had specific triggers, one being the 72-hour mark of an involuntary commitment initiated by a family member. At hour 73, Harrison Logistics corporate structure shifted. All family-held shares, Michael's 30%, Jennifer's 20%, transferred to an irrevocable charitable trust. But Thomas needed more than just the automatic trigger. We needed to prove fraud. That's where modern technology helped. The malfunctioning security camera on the stairwell? I'd installed a backup system after Michael's fuel scheme, hidden cameras throughout the building. The footage clearly showed Sandra, the fake nurse, pushing me. Better yet, Michael's actor made mistakes. One security video showed me entering the building at 3 a.m. on February 15th. Problem was, I was in Dallas that night, speaking at a logistics conference. 300 witnesses and a keynote speech video proved it. The forged emails were traceable. The mysterious appointments were booked from Michael's IP address. His golf buddy doctors had interesting financial records, payments from a shell company linked to Michael. The web of fraud was extensive but sloppy, built on the assumption that a confused old man in a psychiatric ward couldn't fight back. Day 5 at Riverside. Michael arrived for his victory lap. The board had confirmed him as permanent CEO. He'd moved into my office, changed the locks on my house for safety, and frozen my personal accounts to protect Dad from himself. He sat beside my bed, barely containing his glee. "The doctors say you'll need long-term care, Dad. Don't worry, I've found a nice facility. Very comfortable." "That's nice, son," I said vaguely. "Will you visit?" "Of course, once everything's settled. The company transition is complex." "What transition?" He leaned closer, dropping his voice. "The ownership transition. See with you. Incompetent, your shares transfer to me as next of kin. I control everything now." "That's good," I mumbled. "You always were smart." He couldn't resist. Had to gloat. "Smarter than you ever gave me credit for. 3 years of planning, Dad. Every detail perfect. The doctors, the incidents, even Sandra playing nurse. You never saw it coming." "No," I agreed. "I certainly didn't see it coming 3 years ago when I changed the bylaws." His smile froze. "What?" "Article 19, Subsection J, check with legal." "Oh wait, you can't. You're not CEO anymore." Chapter 10, The Collapse. The beautiful thing about well-written corporate bylaws is their immediate effect. The moment I was held past 72 hours on a commitment initiated by family, the competency clause triggered. All family shares transferred to the Harrison Foundation Trust. Michael went from owning 30% of a $500 million company to owning nothing. He ran from the hospital, phone to his ear, screaming at lawyers. But it was done. Irreversible. The trust board 3 respected business leaders and 2 retired judges had already taken control. Their first act? Reviewing the CEO appointment made under suspicious circumstances. Thomas Crawford arrived that afternoon with a court order for my immediate psychiatric evaluation by independent doctors. Real doctors, not golf buddies. Their verdict was swift. William Harrison showed no signs of dementia, no cognitive impairment, no psychiatric illness requiring hospitalization. In fact, Dr. Sarah Chun noted, Mr. Harrison displays remarkable mental acuity for any age. His memory is exceptional, his reasoning sound. The only unusual behavior we observed was his ability to simulate symptoms on command, a sign of intelligence, not illness. I was released within hours. Nurse Rodriguez hugged me goodbye. "Give them hell, Mr. Harrison." "Already done," I said. But the show's just starting. Chapter 11, The Reckoning. I returned to Harrison Logistics to find chaos. Michael had been escorted out by security, screaming about his rights, his inheritance, the unfairness. The board, now controlled by the trust, had appointed Jennifer as interim CEO. My daughter, the one who'd never schemed or stolen, who'd built our Phoenix operation into our most profitable region through honest work. "Dad," she cried when she saw me. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what Michael was doing. "I know, sweetheart. That's why you still have a job. The trust will honor your position, your salary. You earned it. But my shares gone. Same as Michael's. But you can earn them back. The trust has provisions for merit-based redistribution. Michael tried everything. Lawsuits challenging. My mental capacity dismissed. Hard to claim someone's incompetent when they orchestrated your downfall. Challenges to the bylaws ironclad. He'd signed off on them as CFO. Claims of elder abuse backfired spectacularly when evidence of his fraud emerged. The criminal charges were my favorite part. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, the involuntary commitment, elder abuse, forgery. His golf buddy doctors flipped immediately, testifying about the bribes. Sandra, the fake nurse, sang like a canary. Even the actor who'd impersonated me came forward, fearing accessory charges. Chapter 12. Justice served. The trial was swift. Mountains of evidence, multiple witnesses, and a paper trail Michael thought he'd been clever hiding. Turns out, keeping records of your criminal conspiracy on encrypted files titled Operation Inheritance isn't as smart as it sounds when forensic accountants get involved. Michael got 15 years. Could have been 5 with a plea deal, but he insisted on fighting, convinced he could explain it all as a misunderstanding. The jury didn't buy the "I was just worried about Dad" defense when presented with 3 years of meticulous planning documents. Dr. Coleman lost her license and got 3 years. Dr. Mitchell, 2 years. Sandra, 18 months. The actor got probation for cooperating. A whole network of greed and manipulation. Brought down by Subsection J of Article 19. Jennifer thrived as CEO. Turns out, she'd inherited my work ethic along with my eyes. The company grew 20% in her first year. The trust board was so impressed, they began transferring shares back to her -1% for each year of exceptional performance. At this rate, she owned her full inheritance by 50, having earned every percentage point. Chapter 13. Reflection. I'm 70 now, 2 years past the dementia incident. Still sharp, still working, though I've stepped back to chairman. I spend my days mentoring young entrepreneurs, teaching them about more than just logistics. I teach them about trust, family, and the importance of good lawyers. Michael writes from prison occasionally. Started with angry rants, then self-pity, now something approaching remorse. His last letter asked for forgiveness. I wrote back, forgiveness is earned, not inherited. Same principle as trust. Maybe in 13 years, when he gets out, we can try again. Maybe not. The competency clause remains in our bylaws, now studied in business schools as an example of succession planning. Professors call it brilliant. I call it necessary. When family can smile at Sunday dinner while planning Monday's betrayal, paranoia isn't paranoid, it's prudent. Jennifer asked me once why I didn't just confront Michael when I discovered his plan. Why the elaborate counter-scheme? Because, I told her, he needed to reveal himself completely. Half measures would have left doubt, family division. This way, everyone saw exactly who he was. Chapter 14. Lessons Learned. The security system that caught Michael's fraud. I installed it everywhere after 2019. My house, my car, even a body camera disguised as a tie clip. The backup emails and documents? Stored in 3 locations, including one Michael never knew about. The psychiatric ward performance? I'd actually consulted with psychologists about how dementia presents. Wanted my act to be convincing, but reversible. You planned for this, Jennifer said, reviewing everything. Not this specifically, I admitted, but something. Your uncle taught me that family and money create dangerous chemistry. Your mother's death showed me Michael's true character. I just prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. The Harrison Foundation Trust now funds scholarships for first-generation college students studying business. Michael's shares, worth $150 million, will educate thousands. His greed becomes their opportunity. There's poetry in that. My name is William Harrison. I built a logistics empire from one truck and survived my son's attempt to steal it by having me committed. He thought age made me vulnerable, that 68 years made me an easy mark. He forgot that those 68 years included building a business from nothing, surviving economic crashes, and learning that the most dangerous predators often share your DNA. The competency clause he triggered wasn't paranoia, it was experience. Every betrayal teaches you something. My uncle taught my father that family will steal faster than strangers. My father taught me to protect myself. Michael taught me that some lessons have to be learned the hard way, preferably from a prison cell. He moved fast that March weekend. Friday's push, Saturday's sedatives, Sunday's evaluation, Monday's commitment. By Tuesday, he thought he'd won. But I'd moved faster 3 years earlier, one clause at a time, building a trap that would spring the moment greed overcame sense. Sometimes, the best defense isn't fighting back, it's letting them punch themselves out. Michael committed me for dementia I didn't have, triggering provisions he didn't know existed, losing everything he'd schemed to steal. The son who thought his father had lost his mind learned that the only thing I'd lost was my willingness to trust him. They say you can't choose your family. True, but you can choose your corporate bylaws. Article 19, Subsection J hidden in plain sight, waiting for exactly this scenario. Sometimes paranoia pays off, especially when your paranoid fantasies come true.